I'm 75 years old now, and I can tell you right away that I don't feel like someone who holds secrets. Mostly, I feel like someone who waited too long to say simple things out loud. I live alone in a small house that's quieter than I ever imagined it would be. Some mornings the silence feels earned. Other mornings it feels like a bill I forgot to pay years ago. And now the interest is piled up. When people hear my age, they assume I've figured things out, that I must have cracked the code to marriage, love, staying together. They ask what the secret is, usually with a half smile, like they're expecting something clever. The truth is, if there is a secret, it didn't feel like one while I was living it. It felt ordinary, easy to ignore, easy to postpone. I was married for 46 years. That number sounds solid when you say it quickly. It sounds like success. But numbers don't tell you how many evenings you spent sitting 3 feet from someone and still feeling far away. I met my wife Ellen when I was 27. She laughed with her whole face, not politely, not carefully. She laughed like she trusted the world. And for some reason she trusted me. I wasn't a bad man. I want to be clear about that. I worked hard. I stayed faithful. I paid the bills. I did all the visible things people praise you for, and I truly believed that was enough. In those early years, we talked all the time. About nothing, mostly. What the neighbors were up to. What we wanted to cook. Where we might travel someday. I thought that kind of talking would always be there, like running water. But work got louder. Responsibility has a way of raising its voice without asking permission. I told myself I was doing it for us. The longer hours, the missed dinners, the distracted nodding while she spoke. I thought love was something you secured like a house with a strong foundation, and then you could stop checking the walls. Ellen never accused me of neglect. That's the part that still tightens my chest. She didn't yell. She didn't threaten to leave. She didn't dramatize her loneliness. She just adjusted. She started telling her stories faster, like she didn't want to take up space. She stopped waiting for me to look up before speaking. And when I didn't notice, she learned how to finish her thoughts alone. I noticed these things, but not in a way that scared me. I noticed them the way you notice dust in a corner. You think, I'll get to that later. Later is a dangerous word. There were moments when I could have turned toward her and really asked how she was doing. Moments when the TV was off, the house was quiet, and she sat there folding laundry or staring out the window. Instead, I filled the silence. I talked about my day, my stress, my plans. I mistook sharing information for sharing myself. Years passed like that. Not unhappy years, just thin ones. We raised 2 children. They grew, they left. They called less often than Ellen hoped they would. She pretended it didn't bother her, and I pretended not to see through that. Somewhere in my 50s, I realized we didn't touch much anymore, not just physically, emotionally. We coexisted well, we coordinated, we functioned. I told myself this was what long marriages looked like, calm, predictable, stable. I wore that belief like armor so I wouldn't have to ask harder questions. The turning point didn't arrive with fireworks. It came with a doctor's office and a chair that felt too small. Ellen was diagnosed with cancer when she was 68. Suddenly, time had edges, sharp ones. I went into problem-solving mode, appointments, medications, schedules. I became very efficient at managing her illness. What I didn't realize was that she didn't need a manager. She needed a witness. One afternoon, after a long treatment, she sat in the car and cried quietly. Not loudly, not dramatically, just tears falling straight down. I put my hand on her shoulder and said, "We'll get through this." Ellen died on a Tuesday morning while I was holding her hand. The room was quiet. The machines were quiet. I thought I would say something profound. All I managed was, I'm here. I wish I had practiced saying that earlier in our life. After she was gone, people told me how lucky we were, how long we had, how solid we seemed. I nodded and thanked them because that's what you do. At night, though, I replayed moments, not the big fights. We didn't have many. The small chances, the pauses, the invitations I didn't accept. That's when I understood what people mean when they ask about the secret to a happy relationship. They think it's about avoiding divorce or staying attracted or choosing the right person. But happiness, the quiet kind that lasts, comes from attention, from noticing, from choosing to stay present when nothing dramatic is happening. The secret, if you want to call it that, is not assuming there will be more time to listen better, more time to ask one more question, more time to sit down and say nothing together. Love doesn't disappear loudly. It fades while you're busy proving you're reliable. If I could go back, I wouldn't change our life. I wouldn't erase the work or the responsibilities. I would just turn my body toward her more often. I would let conversations take longer. I would leave some things unfinished. I would risk being less impressive and more available. These days I talk to her sometimes, not because I think she can hear me, but because it keeps me honest. I tell her about the weather, about how the house creaks at night, about how I finally learned to sit still. I don't offer advice to young couples. They wouldn't hear it anyway. I wouldn't have. But if this means something to you, if any of it feels familiar, don't wait for illness or loss to slow you down. Sit. Listen. Notice the person who chose you and is still choosing you in quieter ways. I learned the secret late, too late to use it fully, but not too late to tell the truth about it. That's all I have left to give now.